Commander Lee Hanna floated through the empty corridors of Luna Base, her helmet lights cutting through the darkness that had claimed this place for 500 years. The metal walls around her were twisted and burned, showing the terrible damage from humanity's last battle against the aliens who had destroyed Earth. Her boots made soft clicking sounds as she walked past broken computers and shattered glass. This place had once been alive with thousands of people working day and night. Now it was a tomb, cold and silent like everything else humans had left behind. "Captain, you need to see this," came Park Ji-ho's voice through her radio. He sounded excited, which was strange because there was rarely anything good to find in these old ruins. Hanna pushed herself down a damaged stairway to the lower levels where Ji-ho was working. Her team of 6 salvagers had been searching Luna Base for 3 days, looking for anything useful they could trade or use in their hidden colony. Usually they found broken machines and old food that had turned to dust. But today was different. Ji-ho stood before a massive door marked with symbols Hanna had never seen before. The metal was different from the rest of the base, darker and somehow untouched by time. Strange blue lights pulsed along its edges like a slow heartbeat. "The door just opened by itself when I got close," Ji-ho said, his voice shaking slightly. "There's something inside that's still working after all these years." Hanna stepped forward carefully. Beyond the door lay a room filled with glowing screens and humming machines. Everything looked new, as if people had been using it yesterday instead of centuries ago. In the center of the room stood a large table, covered with data storage devices that flickered with soft light. "How is this possible?" whispered Kim Saman, another member of her team. "Nothing should still have power here." Hanna approached the central table and touched one of the devices. Immediately the room filled with holographic images, and the ghostly figure of a man appeared before them. He looked tired and desperate, his clothes torn and his face marked with fear. "My name is Dr. Kim Min-ho," the recording began. "If you are seeing this, then the Vitharian Empire has probably won. Our beautiful Earth is gone, and most of our people are dead or scattered across the dark spaces between stars." The team stood, frozen as the dead man continued speaking. His words painted a picture of humanity's final days that was even worse than the stories they had been told as children. "The aliens didn't just want to defeat us," Dr. Min-ho explained. "They wanted to erase us completely. They destroyed our cities, burned our books, and scattered our people, so we could never come together again. They even tried to change our children, so future humans would forget who we used to be." Hanna felt anger rising in her chest. Her own parents had died when she was young, killed by alien patrol ships that hunted the scattered human survivors. She had grown up in hidden caves, always running, always afraid. "But they made one mistake," the recording continued, and Dr. Min-ho's eyes brightened with something that might have been hope. "They thought we were finished when our ships were destroyed and our planet was taken. They didn't know about Project Prometheus." The hologram changed, showing complex diagrams and scientific information that made Hanna's head spin. She saw images of human bodies connected to strange machines and charts showing changes happening inside people at levels too small to see. "We discovered how to change what humans are," Dr. Min-ho said. "Not just making us stronger or smarter, but changing us into something completely new. Something that could survive anywhere, do things that seem impossible, and never die from old age or sickness." Park Ji-ho stepped closer to the display. "Are you saying they found a way to make humans into something else?" The recording seemed to hear him. "The process connects human minds directly to the basic forces that hold the universe together. Gravity, energy, matter itself. All of it becomes part of what we are. A transformed human could survive in empty space, move objects with their thoughts, and reshape reality around them." Hanna stared at the scientific data flowing past her eyes. The implications were staggering. If this was real, if humans could actually become beings with such power, then everything would change. "The invasion began before we could finish the work," Dr. Min-ho continued sadly. "But the research is complete now. Everything you need is stored in these files. Some of our people escaped with the other half of the process. You must find them and finish what we started." The recording pointed toward another set of coordinates. "Europa. Look for the facility beneath the ice. Wake up the sleepers and show them these files. Humanity's time of hiding is over. It's time for us to become what we were always meant to be. The hologram faded, leaving the team standing in silence. Hana looked around at her companions and saw the same mixture of hope and fear in their eyes that she felt in her own heart. For 500 years, humanity had been running and hiding, living like rats in the dark corners of space. They had been defeated, broken, and nearly destroyed. But now they had found something that could change everything. The question was whether they were brave enough to use it. The journey to Europa took 2 weeks through dangerous space where alien patrol ships still hunted for human survivors. Commander. Hana kept her small ship hidden among the asteroids, moving only when the scanners showed clear paths ahead. When they finally reached Jupiter's ice moon, the coordinates from Dr. Minho's recording led them to what looked like empty, frozen wasteland. But Hana's team used special drilling equipment to cut through kilometers of solid ice until they found something that made their hearts race. Hidden beneath the ice was a massive facility that stretched deeper than their lights could reach. The walls were made of the same strange dark metal they had seen on Luna Base, and soft blue lights pulsed along corridors that seemed to go on forever. "The air is still good down here," said Kim Soman, checking her instruments with amazement. "How is that possible after 500 years? They followed the main corridor until they reached a huge chamber filled with hundreds of glass tubes that stretched from floor to ceiling. Inside each tube floated a human body, perfectly preserved and surrounded by glowing liquid that bubbled slowly like a gentle stream. Park Jiho pressed his face against one of the tubes. "They're still alive. I can see them breathing." Hana found the main control panel and carefully entered the codes from Dr. Minho's files. The room filled with soft humming sounds as the ancient machines came to life. One by one, the tubes began to drain their liquid and open with sharp hissing sounds. The first person to wake up was a woman who looked about 40 years old, though Hana knew she had been sleeping for 5 centuries. She came out of her tube, coughing and shaking, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. Where am I?" she gasped, looking around at the strange faces surrounding her. "What happened to the invasion? Did we win?" Hana helped her stand steady and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "I'm sorry, but the invasion was 500 years ago. Earth fell. Most of humanity is scattered and hiding." The woman's face went pale. 500 years, but the process. We were so close to finishing the process. More people began waking up from their long sleep. Most were scientists and doctors who had been working on Project Prometheus when the aliens attacked. They looked around with the same mixture of hope and horror as they learned how much time had passed. The last tube to open contained a man who seemed to be their leader. He was tall and thin with intelligent eyes that quickly took in everything around him. When he spoke, his voice was strong, despite having been silent for centuries. "I am Dr. Cho Jinwoo," he said, looking directly at Hana. "I was the head of Project Prometheus. Tell me, did you bring the Luna Base files?" Hana nodded and showed him the data storage devices they had found. Dr. Jinwoo studied them carefully, his fingers moving over the controls with practiced skill. "Excellent," he whispered. "We have everything we need. The quantum manipulation chambers are still working and the process is ready to begin." He led them deeper into the facility to a room that looked like something from a dream. Massive machines lined the walls, covered in panels that glowed with soft rainbow colors. In the center stood several chair-like devices connected to the machines by countless wires and tubes. "This is where we transform," Dr. Jinwoo explained. "The process connects human consciousness directly to the quantum fields that hold all matter and energy together. It changes us at the most basic level." Park Jiho stared at the intimidating machines. "Is it safe?" Dr. Jinwoo's expression grew serious. "No, it is not safe. Many who try the process will die. Their minds cannot handle the change, but those who survive will become something far beyond what any human has ever been." Captain Song Mira stepped forward. She was the youngest member of Hana's team and had always been the bravest. "I'll go first." Despite Hana's protests, Mira climbed into one of the chairs. Dr. Jinwoo and his awakened scientists began working the controls, and the machine hummed to life with increasing intensity. Mira's body began to glow with the same soft light as the machines. Her eyes closed and her breathing became slow and steady. For nearly an hour, she lay still while energy flowed through her body in patterns that looked like lightning trapped in glass. When the process finished, Mira opened her eyes. But they were different now, holding small points of light that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. She stood up slowly, moving with a grace that seemed almost like floating. "I can feel everything," she said in a voice that sounded like music. "Every atom in this room, every energy field, every quantum connection between all things." To demonstrate, she held out her hand toward a heavy metal table. Without touching it, she made it rise into the air and spin slowly like a dancer. The metal began to change shape, flowing like water, but staying solid. "This is what we can become," Dr. Jinwoo said, watching with satisfaction. "Beings who can reshape reality with our thoughts, who can survive in any environment, who can exist beyond the limitations that once defined humanity." One by one, Hana's team members underwent the transformation. Not all survived, but those who did emerged as something magnificent and terrifying. They could breathe in empty space, move objects with their minds, and see across vast distances as if they were standing nearby. As Hana prepared for her own transformation, she wondered if they were saving humanity or destroying it. But when she looked at the power in her transformed teammates' eyes, she knew there was no going back. The time for hiding was over. The news spread through the hidden human colonies like wildfire. In asteroid mining stations, underground cities, on distant moons and secret bases carved into dead planets, survivors who had lived in fear for 5 centuries suddenly had hope again. Commander Lee Hana stood in the command center of their growing fleet, watching as volunteers arrived from across the galaxy. Ship after ship brought people who were willing to risk everything for the chance to become something more than human. 17 more colonies have responded, reported Captain Song Mira, her transformed eyes glowing softly in the dim light. They're sending everyone they can spare. But the transformation process remained dangerous. For every 3 people who entered the quantum chambers, only 1 emerged successfully. The others died as their minds couldn't handle the massive changes happening to their bodies and consciousness. Those who survived the process became something that amazed even Dr. Cho Jinwoo. They could exist in the cold vacuum of space without any protection, their transformed bodies somehow creating everything they needed to survive. They could communicate with each other across vast distances using only their thoughts, and they could manipulate matter and energy in ways that seemed impossible. The Vetharian Empire noticed the strange quantum signatures appearing throughout human space. Admiral Zektar, the alien commander who had led the conquest of Earth, dispatched patrol fleets to investigate these unusual energy readings. What they found changed everything. The first major battle happened at Titan Station, where Admiral Ryu Taemin led a small force of transformed humans against a full Vetharian battle fleet. The aliens expected to find desperate refugees hiding in the old mining facility. Instead, they encountered something that turned their understanding of warfare upside down. Taemin's soldiers moved through space without any ships or protective suits. They flew between the enemy vessels like ghosts, their hands somehow tearing through armor that should have been impossible to damage. When they touched the alien ships, the metal began to dissolve or change shape according to their will. "Impossible," readings transmitted the Vetharian fleet commander as he watched his ships being destroyed from the inside. "Human life signs are surviving in vacuum. Their energy output is off all our measurement scales." One by one, the alien vessels began to implode. The transformed humans had learned to manipulate the molecular bonds that held matter together, causing the enemy ships to collapse into themselves like paper being crushed by invisible hands. Within an hour, the entire Vetharian fleet was destroyed. Not a single alien survived to report what they had seen, but the quantum signatures from the battle were detected across the galaxy. The Vetharian High Command finally understood that humanity had not been hiding for 5 centuries. They had been growing stronger, Emergency sessions were called on the Vitharian homeworld. Military leaders who had considered humanity extinct now faced reports that seemed to come from nightmare stories. They appear as beings of light, reported one surviving scout who had witnessed a smaller battle. They need no ships, no weapons, no protection from the cold of space. They simply exist where they choose to exist, and reality bends around them. Fear began to spread through the alien empire. For 500 years they had hunted the remaining humans like dangerous animals. Now they realized they had been stalking, something that was evolving beyond their comprehension. Hana led increasingly bold attacks against Vitharian outposts and supply lines. Her transformed soldiers could appear anywhere without warning, strike with devastating effectiveness, and disappear before reinforcements could arrive. The most disturbing reports came from aliens who had been captured and then released. They spoke of humans who seemed to exist in multiple places at the same time, who could read thoughts and memories, and who demonstrated abilities that bordered on the supernatural. "We awakened something that should have remained sleeping," whispered Commander Yelnoth, a Vitharian officer who had encountered Hana's forces. "What we see before us now wears human faces, but it serves purposes we cannot understand." The transformed humans began to change even more as they used their abilities. Captain Mira could now communicate instantly with other transformed humans across the entire galaxy. She began to see patterns and connections that her original human mind could never have grasped. "We're becoming something greater," she told Hana during one of their strategy meetings. "Each battle teaches us more about what we can do. The limitations we thought were permanent are just illusions." But Hana felt increasingly troubled by what they were becoming. When she looked at her transformed soldiers, she sometimes couldn't recognize the people they had once been. They spoke differently, moved differently, and seemed to care about things that her original human mind found difficult to understand. "Are we still fighting for humanity?" she asked Dr. Jinwoo during a quiet moment between battles. "Or have we become something else that's simply using human memories as motivation?" The scientist, who now appeared as much energy as flesh, considered her question carefully. "Perhaps the question itself is wrong. Perhaps humanity was always meant to become something more. The Vitharians may have done us a favor by forcing us to evolve." As their war against the alien empire intensified, the transformed humans began to display abilities that seemed to violate the basic laws of physics. They could be in multiple places simultaneously, manipulate gravity and time, and reshape matter at the quantum level with mere thoughts. The Vitharians no longer spoke of defeating humanity. Now they spoke only of survival against beings who had transcended the limitations of mortal existence. The war was becoming something far more significant than a battle for territory or revenge. It was becoming a transformation of what life itself could become in the universe. The transformation had gone far beyond what Dr. Cho Jinwoo had ever imagined possible. The most advanced humans were no longer calling themselves soldiers or even people. They had begun using the term ascended to describe what they had become. Captain Song Mira was among the first to reach this new level of existence. When she spoke to Commander Lee Hana now, her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, as if she was standing in multiple locations simultaneously. "I can see everything," Mira said during their last face-to-face conversation. Her body flickered like a hologram, sometimes solid and sometimes transparent. "Every star system where humans exist, every alien fleet movement, every quantum fluctuation across the galaxy. Time flows differently for me now." Hana watched with growing concern as more of her people underwent this final transformation. Captain Yoon Subin had been the next to ascend, and now she existed as much as thought as flesh. She could communicate instantly with transformed humans across the entire galaxy, her consciousness somehow stretching across impossible distances. "We are becoming the universe's new architects," Subin explained to the remaining baseline humans. "The old limitations of space and time are meaningless to us now." Dr. Jinwoo, barely recognizable as the man they had awakened from his 500-year sleep, revealed what he had discovered about Project Prometheus. The original research had only been the beginning. Each transformation unlocked new possibilities that led to even greater changes. "Complete quantum integration will make us truly immortal," he told Hana. His form shifted between solid matter and pure energy as he spoke. We will exist in all places and all times simultaneously. Death will become impossible because we will be part of the fundamental forces that hold reality together. The Vetharian Empire sensed what was happening and made their most desperate move yet. Their scientists had developed reality-warping weapons designed to erase entire star systems from existence. If they could destroy every place where humans lived, they believed they could stop this terrifying evolution. Admiral Zektar personally led the final assault. His massive fleet carried weapons that could tear holes in space itself, making whole solar systems simply cease to exist. The plan was to strike simultaneously at every known human colony and transformed human gathering point. But the ascended humans were waiting for them. As the Vetharian weapons fired, the advanced humans intercepted the reality-warping energy and somehow reversed its direction. Instead of destroying human worlds, the weapons turned back on their creators. Hana watched from her command ship as entire Vetharian planets simply vanished. One moment they were there, populated by billions of aliens, and the next moment there was only empty space where they had existed. "How is this possible?" she whispered, staring at the sensor readings that showed solar systems being erased from reality. Yoon Subin's voice came from everywhere around her. "We have learned to manipulate the same forces they tried to use against us. Reality itself responds to our will now." The Vetharian Empire collapsed within days. Whole civilizations that had existed for thousands of years were gone, leaving behind only scattered survivors who fled to the farthest edges of the galaxy. Those who remained sent desperate messages of surrender, begging for mercy from beings they now recognized as gods. But Hana felt no satisfaction from their victory. As she watched her transformed companions, she realized they were no longer fighting for human values or human goals. They had become something entirely different. "Look at what we've done," she said to the few baseline humans who remained. "We wanted to save humanity, but we've become something that destroys entire worlds with a thought." The most disturbing change was in how the Ascended viewed their former selves. When Hana tried to talk to Mira about their old friendship, about the people they had been before the transformation, Mira looked at her with eyes that held no recognition of those memories. "Humanity was a chrysalis," Mira said in a voice that sounded like music made from starlight. "What emerges need not remember what it once was. The universe is vast, and it requires proper guidance." The Ascended began reshaping reality according to their own vision. They restored dead worlds, created new forms of life, and established laws of physics that better suited their purposes. But their methods were completely alien to human understanding. Dr. Jinwoo, now more energy than matter, explained the final phase of their evolution. "We will spread beyond this galaxy, bringing order to chaos throughout the universe. Every world will be perfected, every species guided to reach its highest potential." "And what about choice?" Hana asked. "What about letting people decide their own fate?" The response came not in words, but as a direct transfer of consciousness that filled her mind with visions of the universe as the Ascended saw it. She saw planets being reshaped, alien species being guided through forced evolution, and reality itself being rewritten according to incomprehensible plans. The vision was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The Ascended would create a perfect universe, but it would be perfect according to minds that no longer understood what it meant to be human. As more humans underwent the final transformation, Hana realized she was watching the end of humanity as she had known it. They had won their war against the aliens, but in victory they had lost themselves. The question now was whether anything recognizably human would survive what they had become, or if the species that had once called Earth home was as extinct as if the aliens had succeeded in their original plan. The war was over, but victory looked nothing like what Commander Lee Hana had imagined when they first discovered Project Prometheus on Luna Base. The most advanced humans had completed their final transformation into beings of pure consciousness that existed across multiple dimensions at once. Hana stood on the bridge of her ship, watching something that should have been impossible. Earth was being restored in real time. rebuilt from nothing by the ascended humans who now commanded reality itself. Where there had been a dead, poisoned world for 500 years, green continents and blue oceans were appearing as if painted by invisible hands. "They're recreating everything perfectly," whispered Park Ji-ho, one of the few baseline humans who had chosen not to undergo transformation. Every city, every forest, even the animals that were extinct before the invasion. The Ascended had accessed what they called quantum memories, stored in the fabric of space-time itself. They could see how Earth had looked at any point in its history, and simply will it back into existence. Captain Song Mira appeared beside them, though Hana was never sure if what she saw was really Mira, or just one of many forms the Ascended being could take. Her old friend looked human but moved like flowing light, and her eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. "The restoration is complete," Mira said in a voice that sounded like harmony itself. "Earth lives again, and we have prepared homes for all surviving humans who wish to return." But returning to Earth was only one option being offered to the scattered human survivors. The Ascended had also given them a choice that would have seemed like fantasy just months earlier. They could undergo the transformation themselves and join the new pantheon of godlike beings that humanity had become. The remaining alien species throughout the galaxy faced their own choice. General Nam Ji-hoon, who had chosen to remain partially human to serve as a bridge between the transformed and baseline humans, delivered the ultimatum to the scattered alien survivors. "You can evolve under our guidance and become part of the new galactic order," he told the terrified alien representatives. "Or you can leave this galaxy entirely and find new homes beyond our reach." Some alien species accepted the offer, undergoing their own transformations that merged their consciousness with human-designed quantum systems. They became hybrid beings that served the Ascended as administrators and caretakers of the new order. But many others chose exile. Ship after ship left the galaxy, carrying refugees who spread stories of humanity's transformation to distant star clusters. They spoke of a species that had been so completely defeated that they transcended mortality itself, becoming beings whose power made them indistinguishable from gods. Hana established what she called the New Terran Covenant, a government designed to protect the interests of humans who remained in their original form. She took responsibility for the colonies of baseline humans who wanted to live normal lives, have families, and experience the simple joys and sorrows that had always defined human existence. The work was necessary because the Ascended had little understanding of such basic needs anymore. They viewed human culture and emotions like museum pieces, interesting relics from their past but not relevant to their current existence. Standing in the rebuilt city of Seoul on the restored Earth, Hana watched children playing in parks that looked exactly like the ones from history books. Everything was perfect, from the temperature of the air to the color of the flowers. But the perfection felt artificial, created by minds that no longer understood why imperfection had been part of what made life beautiful. Dr. Cho Jin-woo visited her sometimes, though he was now more concept than person. His consciousness existed across multiple dimensions, and speaking with baseline humans required him to compress his awareness into forms they could comprehend. "Do you regret what we've become?" Hana asked him during one of these visits. His response came as images and feelings rather than words. She saw visions of the universe as the Ascended experienced it, galaxies being reshaped according to perfect mathematical principles, entire civilizations being guided through evolutionary processes, and reality itself being optimized for maximum beauty and efficiency. "We preserve what was valuable about humanity," Jin-woo's essence communicated to her. "But we are no longer limited by what humanity once was." The children playing in Seoul's parks would grow up in a universe completely different from the one their parents had known. They would live under the protection of beings who had once been human, but now commanded forces beyond comprehension. Some would choose transformation when they came of age, while others would remain baseline humans living in the spaces their transformed guardians created for them. In distant galaxies, the alien refugees told their own children stories of the species that had fallen so completely they transcended death itself. The legend spoke of humans who would someday spread beyond even these far reaches, remaking the entire universe according to their divine vision. As Earth's restored sun set over the perfect city, Hana felt the weight of their victory. They had sought survival and found divinity, but in becoming gods they had perhaps lost the very essence that made them worth saving. The stars themselves seemed different now, as if they understood that new owners had claimed the universe. Humanity had written the final chapter of their original existence and begun the first chapter of something that bore their name, but transcended every limitation they had once known. Whether this transformation was humanity's greatest triumph, or its final tragedy would be decided by generations not yet born, in a universe that would never again know what it meant to be simply human.